So Shannon, where do you rank Brady in the MVP race right now?
Actually, I have him tied for fourth with Derrick Henry. I have Russ number one. And the reason why I put Russ number one, Skip, is not, yeah, he has gaudy numbers. But if you look at what he's doing, his defense is historically bad, Skip. They're on pace to give up the most yards in the 101-year history of the NFL. And they're also giving up 28.7 points per game. So 28.7 points a game to go along with 480 yards. I have Rodgers in second place. Rodgers is number one in QBR, 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's almost a full yard ahead of Rodgers and Brady in yards per attempt. I got Mahomes third because Mahomes quietly has been under the radar, Skip. He's 16 touchdowns, 1 interception, and even in the game that he lost, he threw for 340 and put up 32 points. And I have Brady tied with Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is on a team that their defense is bad. And because he's able to run the air out of the football, it keeps them off the field from being even worse if they had to play even more. So because what everybody's doing, if you notice this, people at home, everybody talks about Brady since week 3, like week 1 and 2 didn't happen. He played week 1 and 2, and he didn't look good because he didn't look good those first 2 weeks. We got to pick it up from week 3, where everybody else has to count weeks 1 and 2, because guess what? They go towards this total yardage. They go towards this total touchdowns. So with that being said, I have Rodgers tied for fourth. I have Russ 1. I have Aaron Rodgers 2. I have my homeboy 3. I have Tom Brady tied with Derrick Henry for fourth.
The Brady hate on this show knows no boundaries. Shannon, I regret to inform you, Tom Brady has edged ahead in the MVP race. I'm not saying he's running away with it, but he's edged ahead.
What does the betting public say? What is the betting? That's what you tell me. You say, what is the betting odds? What do they say?
I don't care. What? I don't tell you that.
Yeah, you do.
All I know is what my eye test tells me. And all I know is that over his last 5 games, Tom Brady is 15 touchdowns to 1 interception.
But he's played 7 games.
Okay, well, the second game was pretty good because if memory serves, wasn't that the L.A. Chargers? I believe it was at home, and he came back from 24-7 down. I thought he played great in that game. He struggled on the Thursday night at Chicago, as we know. He didn't play awfully, but he struggled, and all I hear from you is this, woozy, and I keep telling you, no, it's really this. It's really 6 Super Bowls out of 9. Okay, so what you continue to neglect to tell America out there is that what Tom Brady is doing is off the charts, all-time extraordinary, because he's the one quarterback or one player, if you want to throw in Derrick Henry, who had no continuity going into the season. If you have Russ number 1, it seems like he's been with Pete Carroll in that offense for 2 decades. It feels like he's played for 20 years like Tom has done in New England. And Tom Brady took over a franchise known as the Buccaneers that had the worst winning percentage in all of sports, that was 7-9 last year. And Jameis led the league in turnovers, obviously interceptions and lost fumbles, with 35 total. And Tom Brady, in a very short time, has completely transformed that organization into, it's not just the Patriot way, it's the Brady way. He has imposed his will on this entire organization, an entire community, to where all of a sudden, I even read Football Outsiders last night, all their metrics have the Buccaneers as by far the best team in the league.
Okay, let's skip. That might be true, but what about Brady? What about his completion percentage, yards per attempt, QBR, touchdown to interception ratio? Where is he number 1 in any of those categories?
Pro Football Focus says he is by far number 1 in what it grades to be big-time throws, 20-plus yards down the field. He has 24. That's my stat, and I'm sticking to it.
Hold on. So let me ask you a question. Tom Brady, of all the guys that I listed, he's the only one that has more than 1 loss. Am I correct? Tom Brady has
Okay.
Tom Brady has 4 interceptions. Aaron Rodgers has 2. My homeboy has 1. Okay, Russ has 6. But 5 or 6 Russ games have 1-score games. He's 4-1 in those games. And his team is defense is giving up almost 500 yards and 29 points a game. Tom Brady's defense is 8th in points. 8th in points allowed. Stop it, Skip.
So what? So you're saying 8th is great?
8th in points allowed. That's top 10. Absolutely.
Well, it's not top 3. Again,
Skip, stop it.
I think they're really good on defense, but it's being transformed because the defense doesn't have to face the sudden change that last year's defense had to face, where you fall behind, all of a sudden it's turnover, get back on the field, back on the field. They've just played 2 straight completely clean games with no penalties and no turnovers. That's the Brady effect. And I'm going to remind you that from the start, he has not had Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin has missed 4 games. That's his best receiver, his Pro Bowl receiver, the receiver ranked #1 in the NFL in performance last year by Pro Football Focus. He's missed him for 4 games.
Can I ask you a question, Skip? Is Chris Godwin better than Devontae Adams? Because Aaron Rodgers played without him for 3 games.
Yeah, and he's had him back, and he had him back at Tampa, right? For that game?
That was his first game back after missing the previous 3. What about Russ, Skip? Think about Russ. Russ had a 15-point lead against the Cowboys. The Cowboys come all the way back, take the lead. Russ has to go back down the field and throw a touchdown with a minute left in order to win that ball game.
Against one of the worst defenses in pro football history. Way to go, Russ. Impressed.
Skip. But here's the thing: the Seattle's defense. You make it seem like they're the 85 Bears or the 2000 Ravens.
They're definitely better than Dallas's defense.
Oh, that's not saying much, Skip.
Well,
that's not saying much.
Well, let me say more to you then. Let me say that Brady's 18 touchdown passes so far are 2nd in the league to Russ. So I'll take that to my bank. And then what has started happening here of late? Well, we just saw Russell Wilson against Arizona throw 3 interceptions, including a game loser in overtime. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you took a big step back as Brady took a step forward. And by the way, he's the NFC Player of the Month for October at age 43. Who knew it? Somebody I know that I work with here on Undisputed has said for 4 straight years he should take it on home. He's done. That's enough, Tom. Go on home.
Okay, how about this? What should have happened? We're talking about this year. We're talking about right now, and we're talking about the MVP voting. If you look at what his numbers are, Skip, he's 19th in QBR, 21st in yards per attempt.
You already said that.
22 in completion percentage. Everybody else on the list is Aaron Rodgers is 1st. Mahomes is 2.
Okay, speaking of Mahomes taking a step back, have you been watching him closely the last 4 games? Because speaking of QBR, it has plummeted. He has been just ordinary the last 4 games.
He's second.
Well, look at his last 4. He's averaged 65 the last 4 games. He's a 90 guy. He's a guy who dominates, and he has not been dominating. And by the way, at Denver against a very average Denver Bronco team, he and his offense went 0 for 8 on 3rd down. Is that good? And he had a QBR of 53, which is barely above average. Is that good? He's taking a step back.
Their defense is even without Von Miller, their defense is commendable because you think about a pick 6, 2 fumbles, and a kick return touchdown is what doomed the Denver Broncos. But here's the thing. Even though you said over his last 4 games, he's averaged 65 QBR, he's still second, and Tom Brady has higher average QBR, and he's 19th. So what does that tell you? Here's another thing, Skip. As bad as you say Mahomes has been playing, Tom Brady is only averaging 1 yard passing per game while averaging 4 more attempts per game. So when you look at it, Mahomes is right there. It's because he set the bar so high. We remember, Skip, his first year of starting. 5,050 touchdowns in a single season. So that's so fresh in our minds. We think that he's having a bad year, even though he's on pace, Skip, to throw for 40 touchdowns and almost 5,000 yards again.
So that brings me back to Aaron Rodgers. What happened when Rodgers met Brady head-to-head, eye-to-eye in Tampa? Aaron Rodgers folded like a lawn chair at a Tampa retirement community.
Okay.
That's what happened. He
Okay.
should have thrown 2 pick sixes in a row. It was just one, nearly a second one. And he should have had 4 interceptions that day. And once he threw the near 2 pick sixes, that was the end of him mentally and psychologically. He folded. He scored 0 points the last 3 quarters. I'm sorry, disqualified. You took a big step back.
Whoa. Okay. So which is okay? Aaron Rodgers lost to Tom Brady. Nick Foles beat your guy so bad, he refused to shake his hand after the game, and he left the bench with 19 seconds and counting on the clock.
He wiped him out. It was 20 to 19. He just crushed him. Ran him off the field, 20 to 19.
And made him forget where he was.
Yeah, that's
he
all
said,
you're
what am
hanging
I?
on to.
No, Skip, don't do that. Don't do Nick Foles like that. Don't you shortchange that man. Your guy caught 2 L's thus far. He has more interceptions than Rodgers and Mahomes combined.
Would you believe that, according to Pro Football Focus grading, that the fewest turnover-worthy passes thrown this year are by Tom Brady? The fewest turnover-worthy. He has stepped into Jameis's shoes, who led the league in turnovers and said, nope, not on my watch.
Yep,
and
Skip.
with no OTAs, with no preseason games, he is already doing that with this team in that town? The Succaneers? Are you kidding me?
There's no question that Brady is more careful with the football than Jameis. I'm not here to deny that. But if you think this is the exact same offense that Jameis was running last year, you're sadly mistaken. Even our Peyton Manning has said what they've done. He says, I'm surprised it took him this long to allow Tom to run his offense. And what we're seeing is Tom Brady is exactly running the offense that he ran in New England. Okay, I'll give you that, Skip. But this notion, turnover-worthy plays, he has how many interceptions and how many fumbles? That's what we know. Forget turnover-worthy plays. How many turnovers does he actually have?
4, which is pretty great.
No, he has 4 INTs, right?
Well, he has 4 interceptions, right? So,
yeah. Okay. And that's few.
Okay,
and Rodgers
and
has
guess what? I told you he has 2 pick sixes, obviously, came early. In which he targeted Justin Watson.
See?
And guess what? The last 2 games, Justin Watson has been healthy, has been ready to play, and he's gotten 0 targets because that's it. You just got doghoused.
You see what you did, Skip?
Yep.
Now that man, now Tom Brady throws pick sixes, and we blame the receiver. That's what we do. And what you've also done is that we want to pretend, so we're going to go back since week 3. So I just want to know, so when did the NFL season officially start? Did it start week 1 or did it start week 3? Because what I'm noticing is if Tom Brady does not play well, we got to move past the games that he didn't play well and pick up once he started playing well. When we've never, ever done that in the history of football for any other player. Joe Montana didn't get to say, well, since week 5, Joe has been lights out. They counted weeks 1 through 4 also. Everyone else, but only Tom. Everybody else get turnovers. Tom has turnover-worthy plays. No, Skip Bayless, the Bible for Skip Bayless was QBR.
He had to start completely over after 20 years in this league.
He to go.
All new offense, all new coaching staff, all new teammates, and try to figure it out with no preseason. It's impossibly great what he's doing. And right away, what happened in game 1? Mike Evans, his other Pro Bowl stud receiver, turned his ankle so badly, he's been limpy and gimpy the whole rest of the way. Little Scotty Miller got beaten up so badly that at Chicago, the one glitch so far, little Scotty got no targets in that game because he could not run. Shannon, he's doing it, and he lost O.J. Howard, obviously, for the year. He's been doing it with mirrors for the most part until now.
I just want to know one thing. Is he the GOAT?
Is he the GOAT? He's the GOAT.
Because you told me we don't make excuses for GOAT. We don't make excuses for Jordan. We don't make excuses for LeBron. You told me LeBron the GOAT. And LeBron the GOAT. So you didn't.
Yeah, you told me Tom Brady should have retired 4 years ago.
Okay, Skip. Whether he should have or shouldn't have, we're talking about right now. And on my list, he's tied with Derrick Henry. Now, that's not to say at the end of the year, they still have, 9, 10 games to play? That's not to say at the end of the year he doesn't win the award. But to say he's the front runner right now, me and Fox Bet says otherwise. We both have him tied for 4th.
So I think you just acknowledged your fear that Tom Brady just might win this award.
Skip, he, of all the guys, he has the best story. You know, sports is not just necessarily about wins and losses and scores. He has the best story, no question about it.
Yep. Thank you. Case closed. Next question.
But that doesn't mean he's going to win.
We'll continue this conversation with Michael Vick later in the show. But now let's move on to Tom's former team, because after a 3-game skid, Cam Newton knows things need to turn around. Cam told reporters yesterday that losing is unacceptable in the New England locker room. The veteran quarterback also said that being benched last week was humbling, and now their matchup against the Bills on Sunday is a must-win. So, Shannon, what do you expect from Cam and the Patriots?
Well, Skip, I don't know how they improve, considering the roster is what it is. As Cam said earlier, everything that they need in the locker room to improve, to get better, everything that they need is in the locker room to improve and get better. Well, what is in that locker room? When you look at that roster, they might not have a guy on the offense that can go start for anywhere else in the league. Defensively, you might have 2 guys. That's Devin McCourty and that's Stephon Gilmore. So of 22 starters, you might have 2 guys that can go somewhere else and start. And then I'm supposed to believe all of a sudden, Skip, at the end of the day, having played this game for 14 years, talking about we need to play better and yada, 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 that don't do anything. At the end of the day, you got to play better. And Cam has not played well. And when you throw 0 touchdowns and you got 5 interceptions and your defense is not 85 Bears, 2,000 Ravens, 0-2 Bucks, Skip, you're going to lose. You're going to lose those games because your offense is already putting your defense on a short field, and your defense isn't lights out like they were the first half of last year when they were giving up fewer than 8 points a game. So I expect them to struggle again. Now, could Coach Belichick dial up something, confuse Josh Allen? Because Josh Allen has come somewhat back down to earth. He's still playing well, but not like he was in the first 4 weeks of the season. But, Skip, I just don't see it, Skip. When I look at this roster and I look at this team, I'm like, how in the hell are they going to get better with what they have that's in that locker room? I mean, you keep hearing, well, he might trade for this guy, he might trade for that guy. They're more than one player away on offense or defense to get them to where they need to be or where they want to be. So I believe they will struggle again in Buffalo.
Unfortunately, so do I. Shannon, I'm feeling sorrier and sorrier for Cam Newton. He's in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I look at what he's left with at receiver at Buffalo against your arch rival within the division, the team I thought would win the division, a game that now Cam calls must win as they've fallen to 2-4. And do you realize his 3 receivers still healthy, who are going to be in the starting lineup, I guess, are Jacoby Myers, undrafted out of North Carolina State, Damiere Byrd, who they picked up from Arizona, undrafted out of South Carolina, and Gunnar Olszewski. I'm pretty sure Gunner's going to have to play high plays in this game as the 3rd receiver, who was undrafted out of Bemidji State, which is a D2 school up in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Gunner. That's what you're working with. 3 undrafted receivers because Julian Edelman, broken down, beat up. Now he's got to have some kind of scope on his knee. He led the league in drops last year. He was Brady's best friend and worst nightmare all last year. And trust me, down in Tampa right now, Tom is shaking his head and having empathy for Cam because nobody knows better how bad it's gotten in New England, how bare the cupboard is, than Tom Brady. This is embarrassing. And yet Cam gives great press conference. He took that one over yesterday. I loved everything he said. It's highly entertaining because he has huge personality. But his quote about when he was asked about losing, losing is not acceptable in this locker room, in this county, in this state, in this area, in this region. So Cameron Newton, you need to pick your expletive up. That's what I've learned, okay? I loved it. It was a great quote. Everything he said he got humbled by being tapped on the shoulder by Belichick and replaced in the fourth quarter by Jarrett Stidham. And yet, he says, I try to stay positive and speak it into existence. I don't think you can speak this one into existence because, Shannon, look at the tight ends. Look what Brady's doing with Gronk in Tampa. All of a sudden, Gronk's come back to GOAT life. And now look what Gronk's done. He's caught 22 balls for 280 yards and 2 touchdowns. All of the Patriot tight ends combined have caught 8 balls for 88 yards and no touchdowns. And Belichick went out in the 3rd round in this past draft and drafted 2 tight ends. One of them, a rookie named Dalton Keene from Virginia Tech, who finally got in a game last week. That was his first game, and he did catch the 1 ball that was thrown to him. That's it. That's all your production. They have the worst tight end production, as they did last year, in the whole league. They've caught a grand total of 13 passes as tight ends. How can you win with that? Belichick has let this go from bad to worst. And the guy who's paying for it is Cam. And Shannon, isn't this a microcosm of Cam's career? Because remember those first 2 games he played as a pro, coming out of Auburn, national champ, Heisman winner, even won a championship at Blinn Junior College in Texas. And here he comes into pro football, and I thought he was going to take the world over. He throws for 422 at Arizona in his first pro game, and then came home to throw for 432 against Aaron Rodgers in Charlotte, obviously, for Carolina. And after that, he never sniffed a 400-yard game since. And he's had very few 300-yard games. And how did he start off in New England this year? Well, the first game against Miami, he took it over mostly with his legs because he ran 15 times for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then he goes to Seattle and throws for almost 400 yards, 397, and ran 11 times for 47 more, 2 touchdowns. And as you know, it went down to the last play, and if he just bounced it outside, they would have pulled off the big upset on a Sunday night at Seattle.
Correct.
Okay? And that was it. And then the last 3 games, Cam has 1 touchdown to 6 interceptions. So it sort of mirrored his career a little bit, that his QBR over the last 3 has been 15, an average of 15, which is scaled 0 to 100, woeful.
It's horrible.
Yeah, and it's the worst in all of pro football over the last 3 games. Well, am I condemning Cam for that? I'm not. You can only do so much with what you have to work with, and it's like he's playing with both hands tied behind his back in New England, as Brady felt like he was much of last year. So,
Even Skip,
go ahead.
Your brother's a chef.
Yeah.
Even the best chef need the proper ingredients to make a nice meal.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he can make us whip up something, but sooner or later you're like, you know what? I just don't have what it takes. And then Cam looks back and he sees what he left in Carolina. He sees Samuel. He sees DJ Moore. They got Mike Davis.
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey is coming back. He's like, man.
Agreed.
Look what I had and look what I have.
Yep, I agree.
And Skip, like I said, I don't see how, looking at this roster, and I know what Cam said. Cam says we have everything we need in the locker room. To do what? To win no more games?
And by the way, speaking of my brother, I just wish this pandemic would start to subside so he could reopen all his restaurants full force, because this is rough on restaurateurs right now, as you know.
Especially, Skip, in Chicago, because you can't be outside.
No.
You can't be outside now.
Outside is ended. Yep.
Yeah. At least in California and Florida and some of the warm weather states, you could open up, have patios.
A little
ain't no
bit.
Ain't no patio going on in Chicago.
No, Chicago's summer, and I lived there for a while. It lasts about 2.5 months, so summer's
Right.
way over there. So
Yeah.
in the end, I got Buffalo winning this game 24-10 because I don't know how Cam's going to score many points.
I agree with you, Skip. I don't see how they win this ball game either. I'll go a little more. I'm gonna say 27. I'm gonna say 27-13.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.